We're at the United Nations where our president, Jonathan, made a speech about the state of the country. And next week, Nigeria will mark the 52nd Independence Day. Life expectancy in Nigeria is 46.9 years. So Nigeria as a country has outlived most of the people that will be born in Nigeria today. We are going to have a roundtable with two distinguished Nigerians. The first person is Dr. Peter Deji Osilaja. He is the head of the Nigerian American Public Affairs Committee to re-elect Obama. He is also the president and founder of Sept of America. He's the executive director of the League of Patriotic Nigerians. Dr. Osilaja, welcome to SaharaTV. Can you hear me? Dr. Osilaja, welcome to SaharaTV.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Well, thank you for having me.
All right.
It's a pleasure to join you in the discussions.
Okay. The other patriotic Nigerian that we have is simply known as Kole. That's how he wants to be described. And Kole, welcome to SaharaTV.
Thank you very much for having me, and I hope we have an interesting discussion on the various topics you've laid out.
All right. So we'll start with the situation here in America, which is that next week there will be the first debate between President Barack Obama and his challenger, Mitt Romney. So we want to go to Deji, who is out there campaigning for Obama. And I want to find out from him, Deji, what do you say to Africans who ask this question, Africans in America? Why should I vote for Obama again? And what has he done for me in the last 4 years?
Well, thank you very much. I think one of the basic misconceptions that many of us have when it comes to political activism, particularly as it plays out in this country, is that I would only support a candidate when he has done something for me. Whereas it really has to be the reverse, the way the system works in this country. In other words, if you want a candidate and a politician to support you, you in general would have had an opportunity to have provided support to that candidate. So in other words, it's a very good question. What has Obama done for Africans? The president has been in a situation where he came into power when the economy went downhill. And as a result of that, he's been really focused on trying to stabilize the economy. But we as Nigerian Americans, we decided to come together because we felt the need to increase our political activism. We believe that if we organize and we act as a collective, on the long run, we'll have an opportunity to participate in the states that are present in the country.
Okay. Kole, let me come to you. As someone who is observing the Obama administration, you remember when he came into power, the first visit to Africa was to Ghana. And when he got to Ghana, he talked about the need for Africans to establish institutions and to move away from having big men running countries. But we know that he continues to support someone like Museveni of Uganda. The question people in Africa are asking is the same thing that Africans here. What has Obama done for Africa?
Well, let me put it this way. What Dr. Osilaja has just explained to me is politics 101. And because we come from a continent where selection is more the order of the day than election, we tend not to understand the dynamics of citizenship, the question of citizenship and your responsibilities and rights to be a citizen, and especially in electoral politics. What exactly is a citizen supposed to do? Having said that, now to the question of what Obama has done for Africa, his visit, saying that what we need on the continent, from an outsider perspective, we must recontextualize President Obama as the president of another country that is visiting sovereign African countries and offering suggestions that instead of big men and strong men, you should have strong institutions. Because we need to reorganize, re-envision the way we organize politics. And so the question of what Obama has done for Africa should not be the supreme question. What we should be thinking about is, how has it performed in his country? Politics and global politics is a domino effect. If he does something for Americans and he can do it properly, there will be some effect back on the African continent. We're talking about trade, we're talking about aid, we're talking about even politics, we're talking about education, we're talking about security, we're talking about some of those places in which America has taken it upon itself to support other countries. Yes, he might support Museveni. Remember that in politics, as Nnamdi Azikiwe would say, there are no permanent friends and there are no permanent foes, but there are permanent interests. And this has been trying to balance, as it were, to make sure that the interest of America is supreme, compared with what others expect. You know, he is not the president of Africa or Ghana. He's the president of the United States of America. Now let's put it to that first, and then we'll discuss later.
Now, Deji, Mitt Romney supporters, they say that he may be a lousy candidate, but that he has the business executive skills to be a great president. And some of Obama's supporters will accept that he's a great candidate, but that he's been a lousy president. So what gives you the confidence that he will be a better president if he wins a second term with the kind of Congress that he's likely going to have?
Well, I think one of the things that President Obama has come to realize, and I completely agree with him, is that we have a divided politics in the United States right now, where the Republicans, they are very much in favor of the business community and the wealthy, whereas the Democrats are more interested in the middle class and the poor. And so they have really staked their positions very distinctly. And as a result of that, I think you need to ask yourself as an African, and you look at your community and you say to yourself, where do we fall? And if we fall in the category of the middle class and the lower middle class and the poor, then therefore we should expect that it would be Obama who would be able to provide the resources that we need to emancipate. Such resources might include student financial aid, it might include remodification of loans, it might include health care, so as opposed to reduce taxes, which is what Romney would stand for. So I think the issues are really clear. It's not a function of whether Romney can be a good president or not. It's a function of what policies will he enact, and to what extent will those policies be in the interest of Africans who live in this country.
Now, Kole, let me go back to Africans in Africa. Some are saying that a Republican administration will be better placed to help the growing Islamic fundamentalist movements threats all across Africa because they are there for strong defense. What do you say to such Africans?
Well, before I comment on that, let me just piggyback on what Dr. Osilaja just said. The question of the differences between the two candidates. I think beyond the individuals, beyond Mitt Romney and Barack Obama, we should also be focusing on the institution backing both of them. Now, you say that one appears lousy, but he's very astute as a business person. One has not really run a presidency. When we focus on individuals, such episodic reading of history is very possible and it is flawed. When you look at what Obama is, you have to look at him. I know the buck stops with the individual, but also look at the institution and look at the dynamics in which he's had to work. These are the things that they muddle the water with the Republicans. And all of this is actually a media war. It's a war for the mind to see either the glass half filled or half empty. And they sometimes go ahead to pretend as if this other candidate, the Barack Obama, is not doing a good job, whereas he's doing a house-cleaning job, setting the house so that visitors can come and they can have their food in peace and they can have their wine without trouble. Now, talking about Africans and their choice, whether it is the Republicans or it is the Democrats, I do not really think that should be our focus, really. We should get our own houses in order first. Most African countries do not have their houses in order, and they tend to misunderstand and misread the politics in America. Republicans, yes, the 1% belong to the war machine. They like to have wars because they would sell a lot of ammunition to the warring countries on the African continent. Yes, I expect them for conflict. When there's conflict, Republicans are really at their peak. But is that what we want on the African continent? We want a resolution. We want strong institutions, and I would say that. And we would apply that to America as well. It is not just weak leadership, but strong institutions that back the individuals up. Let me leave it at that.
Okay, Deji, let me come back to you. There's this argument, philosophical argument between the Republicans and the Democrats, and it goes something like this, that a government that gives you everything is a government that can take away everything from you. And I want you to address this issue of Obama being a president that is expanding government, while the Republicans are planning or thinking about limiting government. How do you address that concern?
You know, I have been thinking about that for quite a while, because I kind of ask myself, you know, if anybody lives in a society like this where we have great roads, great transportation, great educational systems, social nets to protect the poor, it would be unfathomable for me to be asking myself, why would I want less of those for my society? But then the more I think about it, the more I realize that indeed there are quite a number of people who live in, in the hinterland of America, who live in the suburbs. If you ever travel to many of these places, you'd notice that they don't have subways, they don't have high freeways, they don't have any of these institutions, and as such, live rather independently. So what I'm observing is that the issue of whether you want a government that's politically, socially involved, or you want a government that sets you free, a lot of it has to do with where you live. So consequently, you would notice the electoral map showing that Obama does very well in big cities like New York, Pennsylvania, California, and does very poorly in Idaho. So I hope that helps to explain the philosophies between the two and why people, despite the obvious, are very strong in their positions.
All right, Deji, maybe I'll ask you to turn down the volume of your live stream because it's interfering with our broadcast, please.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you can always watch this. It will be online for a long time. Deji and Kole, in just in case it's any of you, but we are hearing that interference. I'm not sure who has it on. Anyway, yeah, which is the...
Yeah, it's not from me.
It's not from you. Okay. All right. Kole, are you still with us?
Yes, very much so.
Okay. All right. Before we leave this topic, we're still getting that interference, and I believe it's one of you. But anyway, before we leave this topic, let me ask you, Kole. So, what are you expecting to see happen November 6th? What is your prediction?
Well, I so much like the way you put it, that a government that gives you so much can take so much from you. I think the issues are very, very clear, and it's all about capital. This is a capitalist society, knowledge-driven society. That how do you have access to capital? Those who have access to capital want to keep it. Those who don't have access to capital form the large majority. And one of the candidates is promising that we will give you the enabling environment. Those of you who do not have Head Start, we will provide you with the enabling environment in order to survive and be able to survive and flourish. And the other one is saying, we're going to keep to the tenets of the capitalist society. where the employers of labor simply employ you and you get paid what is your due. And from there you can have a good life or a quality life. In those two statements and two positions, you begin to see the fallacy and the illusion of the whole concept of capitalism. And I think that what we're going for is not a question of good capitalism or bad capitalism. What we're looking for and what we want to choose and what the American people should stand for is that you cannot do it alone. The fellow who wrote Bowling Alone, the fact that the American society over time has become so atomistic, has become so individualistic, and that we should go back to the communal existence. And I think that's what Obama stands for. Am I reading wrongly? But I think his body language says that a communal society can make better progress than this isolation, these rich men who simply want to make more. And that's what capitalism helps them to do. It's sometimes that capitalism is said to be amoral. It does not rely on morality for its survival. And if you look at the way Mitt Romney and the folks and the Koch brothers that support him, these are people who are employers of labor. And they just want you to take what is yours and go away without any other consideration. This is my reading of them, and I might be wrong, and I might be biased, because I believe that people can live in a community and they can be supported, whether it is big government or the fear that the government will take anything from you. Let's not forget that there is a constitution in this country, and it's been tried, it's been tested, and it's amended over time just to make sure that it suits the values, the vision of the people. So I have no such fears about Obama winning, about somebody taking all from me. I don't think that the way the institutions, the judiciary, the legislature, and the executive arm are set up would allow for such dictatorship. I don't know whether there's going to be a modern-day dictatorship, and I'm not even sure that this government has the wherewithal in this present global economic situation to give as much as it will want to give. Go to Germany and find out about social markets. Go to Britain and find out about the social system there and the social welfare system. So it's not just that this is a different situation. There are countries that are doing it, but they're doing it in different ways. But in order to be alarmist, the Republicans must also play on the fears of those that have, not those that don't have, those that have, and those that are totally illiterate, those that are the children of Rush Limbaugh, who listen to the gospel according to Rush Limbaugh. He is the voice, he is the oracle, and once the oracle has spoken, what else? And you want Glenn Beck with his tears? These are people who trade on tears, and their tears sometimes have effects on rural America, where people do not have the kind of access to the internet as you do. They have access to radio, and they listen to their brother Glenn Beck, and they listen to Rush Limbaugh, and they listen to all these other folks who skew the truth. But I thank God for even programs like you contributing a little to the enlightenment of the populace and the citizenry.
All right, thank you so much. Let me go to Deji and round up this topic. Deji, in 2008, a lot of Africans were involved in the campaign to elect Obama, but the same cannot be said of 2012. What happened, and how do you pitch to Africans that they have a stake in this election and that they should come out and vote and come out and participate?
I mean, just simply think about our children. Simply think about our children. This is the first time that we have an African-American, someone who, in fact, his father is from Kenya, running for being president of the United States of America. And as such, if he were to lose, the general perception of the one-term president in this country is that he was a failure. Think President Carter, the way he continues to be maligned. So it is incumbent upon us, therefore, to try to do all we can as Africans to support this man so that our children can see that the sky's the limit and everything is possible. it's a very basic, fundamental thing for us Africans to see him succeed, so that our children can know that it's possible. Everything is possible. And in light of that, I don't know that any of you are aware, we've been doing fundraising for President Obama. Nigerian Americans for President Obama has raised over $50,000 already for him. And you can go to NigeriaObama.com to link up to the site, NigeriaObama.com.
All right. Thank you so much for talking about this election. Let's now go to Nigeria, where on Monday, Nigeria will mark our 52nd Independence Day anniversary. We've already declared a public holiday as usual. But the question is, how have we fared in 52nd year of our independence? Kole, let's start with you. What is the performance? How do you rate the country?
I rate the country against the backdrop of the global situation. The fact that the political economy in the country is in total chaos and mess, and the fact that we have used the same kind of solutions over and over again, and the same set of individuals with old ideas to see whether we can make progress. Nigeria is a country with potential. I was on YouTube yesterday, and I was listening to an Italian lady who came to Nigeria, and she's been doing what she called Born Away, and I was fascinated. This Italian lady kept on saying, Nigeria is it. Nigeria has all the resources. And she came here 7 years ago, and she doesn't want to go anywhere else. Now, that tells you that those who are outside see potentials, but those who are inside see problems. They see hurdles. Because the way we have run our affairs in 52 years, sometimes you will think that our leadership live in a cave, and they once in a while just come out and see they see progress. And as soon as they get that, they forget everything they have seen and they return to their caves. Sometimes it's heart-rending. For me, the question of leadership is just one part of it. The followership is another. In 52 years, can you compare the way Nigerians attend to politics and political power with the way they do it in Ghana? You know, we have countries around us to compare ourselves with. But in the 52 years and in the 52nd year of the year of good luck to Jonathan, it is such a shame and a pity that we are even talking about this, and we cannot raise our heads high to say that these are things. But having said that, there are areas where we have made great progress, and these areas happen to be with the civil society. The civil society has done a lot that has not yet been documented. But when you look at the leadership side of migration, we have failed ourselves, we have failed the people, we have failed the African continent, and if we are given an F on the leadership side, they've just been generous. We do not even deserve it.
Yeah, Deji, you've been watching the American system, and when you look back at home at Nigeria, what do you see? Where is the failure? What happened?
Well, for me, it's very fundamental, and that is we need to unleash the human potential. The human potential is by far Nigeria's greatest resource. Anywhere you go all over the world, you see the Nigerian energy. I have been fortunate enough to travel a lot, and many peoples of different parts of the world don't have a quarter of Nigerians' energy. Even when you go to Nigeria, people wake up every day and they pick up their bits of wood, their little goats, and they patrol the streets, trying to make a living. It's something to behold. So, unfortunately, it's almost like a curse. We were bestowed with oil, And as a result of that, the concentration of the system, the institutions, like Mr. Kole would always say, have been focused on that oil. And the central government has done a pretty good job of keeping people suppressed, inhibited, and denied knowledge of what's really going on. So a good example is the electricity that our country has been deprived of for so long. It's almost by design, because the more you keep people in the dark, the more they don't know their rights. So when all of that is said and done, I believe that the strategy, the way we go forward, is to figure out a way to unleash the human capital that's been so suppressed and undernourished. And when you contrast that with the U.S. here, you'd notice that one of the reasons why this country thrives so well, it's almost obvious, is the space and the freedom and the independence that the citizens have to be able to wake up and do what they have to do and multiply and grow. So that's what we need in Nigeria.
Now, Kole, let me come to you. One of these stories running this week actually illustrates the situation in Nigeria. Female Nigerian pilgrims went to Saudi Arabia, and they were detained at the airports, and many of them are being deported because, according to the Saudi authorities, they failed to follow the rules. The Nigerian side is claiming that they met all the visa requirements, but the Saudis are saying they did not. And we have this embarrassing situation where even Nigerian ambassador to Saudi Arabia was not allowed to see these Nigerians at the airports before their deportation. Now, what does that say about the place of Nigeria in the world and how we've performed in the last 52 years?
Well, this single situation I wouldn't even read as one of the issues. In diplomatic circles, things do happen this way once in a while. But I would think that what has happened to this 1,000 unaccompanied females that went to Saudi Arabia is meant to solidarize, create a bridge of solidarity between the females in Saudi Arabia that have been oppressed, that have been suppressed, and now that they have done it to Nigerians, it's a wake-up call for the Muslim world to now begin to pay attention to what the sisters in Saudi Arabia have been saying. I do not really see it as, yes, it's one of those diplomatic bungles, but I wouldn't even say that it's, I wouldn't put the blame on Nigeria. I would want us to look at the greater issue of what this means to gender parity, to gender development. The religion itself, those who have studied it, do not think that the way women are being treated is the way they should be treated. And the women are rising up, even in Saudi Arabia, to claim their rights. They know their responsibilities and they fulfill their responsibilities. So this particular instance for me is one of those things in which Muslim sisters across the world, just like the Catholic nuns are doing and moving from place to place and challenging authority, I think that this is the time and this is a good wake-up call for sisters in Islam and in the Muslim world to rise up and say that, yes, let us look at the Quran, let us look at the Hadith to review this situation and call for a reformation. So this would not be a one-off case. It should be seen as a part of the bigger puzzle. And I do not think that the 1,000 female pilgrims will go home and go to sleep or go to bed. Now they would learn and would most probably rise up and do something.
Deji, let me ask you a different question, which is also in the news, which is about the wife of the president, Mrs. Patience Jonathan, who is being treated in a German hospital. Now, there is a question of she is being treated with public funds. Do the public have the right to know what is happening to her?
I don't think so. I think when it comes to our respective health, I think there should be some element of privacy. I do acknowledge what you're saying, that she's been treated with public funds. Yet at the same time, she also has rights to her privacy. So it creates a little bit of a challenge there. But all in all, my intuition would be to, give her her privacy and let her be treated. I think it's put yourself in her shoes. If you had an ailment that you didn't want people to know your condition, just because you're being subsidized by your corporation for your health care, doesn't necessarily mean that your corporation must be entitled to know what the nature of your ailment is. So I have concerns about that.
Kole, let me ask you the same question. Yeah.
I beg to differ.
Okay.
I beg to differ. And one of the things that in the last 52 years, when I look at the way we manage information in Nigeria, it just shows that we are still very primitive in the question of information management. You do not, when a thing like that happens, you occupy the airspace saying what you want the people to know. By the time you hide it, they are going to find out what they should know. But you see, we have a government that thinks that it is a journalist that will manage the country's information, as opposed to information and communication experts. Look at all those who have been spokespersons for the president. They were former journalists. And in journalism, there are two sides of the story. It is rather unfortunate, very, very unfortunate, that they have kept this as a secret. And anything you keep in the secret for a public official, you are like a goldfish. All they needed to have done would have been to come out up front and say this, oh, she's this, she's that and that, and constantly ask questions. The nitty-gritty and the details that Dr. Osilaja is talking about, nobody would bother about it. But because of the way they do things in secret, we already have a precedent about this. We had a president that was sick and they were carrying him around like a cargo. And we know exactly what happened after that. So the thing is that if any one of them is listening, they need to sack all their information managers. Sack them back now. Fire them. None of them should be there the next day because they are not managing the information they are mismanaging the information of the public needs.
All right.
And these are the things that trouble and I have problems with.
Deji, you want to add?
Military administration.
Yeah.
We have just few seconds left, like 30 seconds.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that I think what we're dealing with here is the demarcation of politics and private life. So that's what we're dealing with here. There is a political exigency in getting the word out and letting the people know, since they are the taxpayers. And then there is the other side of the individual who has a right to privacy. So how do you balance the two? I mean, look at Jesse Jackson's son, the congressman out here. He too had a condition. He needed to go for treatment, and he felt like it was his privacy to keep it under wraps. And eventually, it did come out to support Mr. Kole's position. Yet at the same time, individuals have a right to privacy when it comes to their health. I need to respect that.
All right. We have to stop it here, even though this is very interesting discussion. And I want to thank you guys. I want to thank Dr. Peter Deji Osilaja for joining us and Kole for joining us from Florida. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And I hope we will continue this discussion before the election and have more of this. When we come
anytime.
Okay, thank you. We are going to now go to Skype calls because we have a lot of our viewers who are interested in joining this discussion. We ask that when you are put through to me, state your name, where you are calling from, and what you want to say. If you can turn down the volume of your computer so that we don't hear echoes from our discussion.